graduated from Morgan, though, I actually had 7 job offers. So that was like great. Had 7 job offers. Ended up going to Hewlett Packard. Had IBM Al and 3M and a number of other companies, but ended up taking one where it was a program where I thought I could lead. And I went there and was actually competing with students from some of the, what are supposed to be like top-notch colleges and universities. And HP at that time said they were looking for students with pizzazz. And so I'm like, what do you mean with pizzazz? So they wanted students that were engineers so that they had the foundational background, but that could also articulate, that could also present, that could also do all of these things. And they summed that up as pizzazz, and I really didn't understand why. But they did select me, and I could tell you I was beating up on those schools. We would just go at it all the time. And part of why I think I was able to succeed is because of the foundation that happened at Morgan, but that close-knit family. It's having people who are supportive, people who care about, and people who are looking at developing you, not only educationally, academically, because that's important. But when Dr. White started talking about the dance piece last night and what happened there, that was amazing because you had students now engaging in a holistic way. You had people starting to have fun, and so it's really looking at how you develop the whole person. So with all of that, I started thinking about, so what am I going to talk about tonight? I said, what would I say? I wanted to tell, first I was going to tell a funny story, and I did all of that. And then I started thinking about who I was talking to. And I actually sat into some of these presentations, and I couldn't believe it. So I said, well, for some of you that may have heard this story, you have to act like you didn't if you heard it before. So you could think about it like you were one of those phenomenal students sitting in the presentation. They did one, optimizing the fabrication process of dye-sensitized solar cells. Dr. White, were we doing anything like that in there? And then, going on the math side, they evaluated digital audio compression techniques for subjective quality. I'm thinking, so if you heard this story, nod like you're in one of those presentations. If you haven't, then, I'm hoping that you take away something and this helps with a better tomorrow. So briefly, I'd like to just ask you the question and tell you a story and about hauling buckets or building a pipeline. So my question for you is, are you hauling buckets or building a pipeline? So we'll tell it in a story form. So once upon a time, it was a little village, and the village needed to get water. And they were trying to figure out, now how will we get water to our people? They decided they were going to send something out, like an RFP. They were going to send something out to the community and figure out who can help us solve this problem. The river was a far distance away, and they had to walk back and forth to the river to get water. So after much debate, they put out the RFP, and it came back with 2 people who they thought, both of these bids are really acceptable. So the 2 bids, the first supplier solution, his name, we're going to call him Billy Buckets. And so Billy Buckets had a solution. And so he said, you know what? I know exactly what's needed. He brought 2 buckets, a piece of wood, and some string. And he tied the buckets to the piece of wood, with the string, put it on his shoulders, and started to walk back and forth to the river. He poured the river into the concrete tank. It was good. The second bidder, Peter Pipeline, disappeared. So he won and he disappeared. So Billy Buckets, he was making some money, so he's out there, and the community is like, what happened to Peter Pipeline? But Billy had a monopoly. And so what happens when you have a monopoly. Sometimes people mentally, the price starts going up. You don't have to really worry about the quality, with all of that, because his monopoly was working. So 9 months later, Peter Pipeline showed up. And when he came back with a construction crew. He had a business plan. He had some investors, and he was ready. And so he had a grand opening for his ceremony, and he made a speech. And he talked about the benefits of his plan. He said, you know what, in my plan, the water is clean. He said, we filter it every day. And because he knew that one of the things that happened with Billy is that as he was carrying it, mud from the leaves would drop into the bucket. And he knew this. And so he said, my water is clean. Another thing that he talked about is, I'm going to keep the prices low. I know with that monopoly, I can do this so that you guys are only paying 25 cents per bucket. And the other thing I'm going to make sure is I'm going to make sure that you have water 24 hours a day whenever you need it. So, Billy is like, what in the world is going on? Because he wasn't ready for that. So he doubled up. He said, I'm going to invest in 4 buckets. And I'm going to run faster. And I'm going to engage my kids. And we're going to do this thing. We're going to do it all together. So he started running faster. And a few years later, he just found out he just started to still get tired. The weekends come. His sons weren't trying to do that. They were off trying to go to college, trying to dance at the event, and do their own thing. So they weren't trying to do that. And so his business started to fade. Peter Pipeline, he continued to grow because other people wanted to invest in his company. People are coming around. Although he had 25 cents per, which was not even a quarter of what the other one was offering, the volume of what he was doing made him even more successful. And so you start to say, okay, well, we're here at this STEM conference. What does that have to do with Billy Bucket or Peter Pipeline? You really start to, within the story, talk about what we have here today and what we created. What we want to be and what we're representing is Peter Pipeline. To build a pipeline, you need to take time to evaluate. It's not about just rushing out, doing something without thinking about it. It's about staying there and developing the plan, a sustainable plan, a plan that has the right people, that has the right partnerships, that has the right resources behind it. And that's what the university's role is, and that's what they're doing, not only building their plan, but creating partnerships for outreach that are relevant. They're teaching relevant courses. They're doing all of that. So that's what the Peter Pipeline mentality has. The other thing that they needed is they needed investors. And that's what we have. So investors in this scenario come in the form of different ways. You have parents who I saw here, which is beautiful, as investors in this. They're investing in their kids' technology. In some cases, you have kids who are paying for themselves to go to college. And they're investing time. You're investing your own resources. You're sitting here as attentive as you are listening, being a part of it. That's an investment. Not only in that, we have investments from the U.S. Army and from NAVAIR and from Boeing and iStems and Hopkins and Lockheed and, far beyond. I mean, it's so many companies that are making that investment in what they see is an ultimate pipeline. And then we, at the end of it, we know we need to have a good product, right? Because that's, you have all of that. That's where the students really come to life. It's about putting the time in, not only to be book smart, but definitely to be book smart, but to be well-rounded. It's getting involved in other community things. It's doing dance if you want, or art, or music, or all of the things that take STEM and make it STEAM, with the A for art. But it's doing all of that, and it's doing all of that with a sense of community, not just about me. Dr. White said when he was speaking that you, and I couldn't see who you was at the table, but somebody is going to be up here. It could be you or you is going to be up here next, and that's what this is about. It's not about a monopoly. It's about us working together to make tomorrow better. We're doing this to make the school better, to make the state better, to make this nation, to protect our country and make our country better. That's what this is about. And that's what I see this conference as. I see this as being a successful start to that. And I mean, it's one of the reasons that I love Morgan the way that I do, because I think it started there with that seed and has grown into something that's blossomed not only to the high schools that are in here, but the colleges that were represented, the families and the partnerships. And so with that, I just want to conclude and say, in building the pipeline, I thank you for being Peter Pipeline, but I challenge the rest of the group, whether you're the product or the investor or just any part of the team to help the community, to not be Billy Buckets and to continue to grow the pipeline. Thank you.